How do you see yourself as a leader? Really? Do you see yourself as a gifted, skilled leader who is well able to lead your department, your team, or even the organization that you work for? Or do you see yourself as someone who's just trying their best to get by, trying to do this? I was in a conversation recently with a friend who is a gifted, very skilled leader. And in that conversation, that person shared with me that he had recently learned about how another person saw him as a leader. And he was surprised that that person was seeing him like that already. Now, to be very clear, did I say that this is a skilled and gifted leader? Yeah, without question. You just need to look at him operate for a few minutes. You can tell this guy is going places. This is a very skilled and gifted leader. So he was surprised that this other person was seeing him in the way that he was seeing him. This person was seeing him at a level, operating at a level that was higher than he was currently operating. He was pleasantly surprised, but nonetheless, he was surprised. He shouldn't have been, but he was. That's the reality. And that comes around to how do you see yourself as a leader? Do you see yourself as an entry level leader? Do you see yourself just being able to lead a team? Do you see yourself being able to lead a unit or department? Do you see yourself as a leader who can lead your entire organization, whether that top executive role is that of a CEO or whatever title you may call it? Do you see yourself there? Now, for some of us, clearly, we are not there as yet. But the question is, how do you currently see yourself as a leader? So in my own history, for example, I didn't see myself as a leader. Before I started operating in a leadership capacity, I saw myself as what I refer to as a sergeant in the army. I was a man who would take an instruction and get it done. I would either do it myself or get other people to help. And at the end of the day, I would get it done. It took a little doing, but I eventually started to accept my role and the fact that I was gifted and equipped to be a leader. Clearly, I needed more training. Clearly, I did more equipping. But I came around to starting to realize that yes, I am a leader. Maybe you are like that. Maybe you are still in that position. It's really, really important that you see yourself for who you really are. And let me encourage you. See yourself not only who you are now. Yeah. See yourself who you really are. How are you made? How are you gifted? What are you equipped with? And if you should cast a gaze 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, what will that leader look like? When you come into that, if you continue on your present trajectory, and I hope that you are developing yourself, if you continue on that present trajectory, what kind of person will you be? What kind of leader will you be? So let me ask you again. How do you see yourself as a leader? These wise words from Henry Ford said to us, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Let me say that again. If you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. If you think you can't do it, guess what? You are not going to do it. If you don't think that you are gifted enough, skilled enough, resourced enough, equipped enough to be able to competently and confidently lead your team, you are not going to do it. If you don't think that you are gifted enough, skilled enough, core enough, competent enough to lead your department, that's not going to happen. You know what's likely to happen? You wouldn't even be given the opportunity to do it because other people are not going to see it in you. You're not seeing it in yourself. And so what you're giving off is lack of confidence. I don't know if I can do that. I don't think I have the skill to do that. Those are the kinds of things that happen. That's what we see. I remember seeing a recording of a speech given by a former American president, John F. Kennedy, several years ago. when he issued a challenge to the American public and declared that before the end of the decade, and this is the 1960s, before the end of the decade, that they would put a man on the moon and return him safely. Now, be sure, that speech was given somewhere around between 1961 and 1963. I'm thinking maybe 62. At that time, be sure, they did not yet have the technology to do it. They had not. They were just finding their feet with putting ships into orbit. And Kennedy cast an extremely huge vision in front of them. And he challenged them to do it. And he said, we do these things not because they're easy, but because they are hard. Because they're hard. You know, I just finished watching several seasons of a show that was about space travel. Started by putting people on the moon, establishing a moon base, and then they push a little further to Mars. These are the things that we do as human beings. We may not be involved in a space program trying to put rovers or spaceships or even a person on Mars. But we can certainly strive to be the best leader who we possibly can be. So like my friend, when someone else saw him already in a higher position and he was surprised that they already saw them like that, yeah. People sometimes see the gifting in you. Yeah, I said a little earlier, you mightn't get the opportunity because you are giving off lack of confidence and so on. Yeah, when you are not giving off lack of confidence, when you are demonstrated by what you are doing, the goals that you are attaining, the way that you're carrying about yourself leading, the way that you are inspiring other people. When you see yourself like that and you are doing those things, other people look on and they see it. So you don't need to be in a space program to do great things. You are a leader. You are called to this office to lead. You are called to a role to help people go from here to there, to turn around this thing that is not working. You are called to influence people. You are called to help people go to where they've never been before. But let me ask you a question again. How do you see yourself as a leader? If you're going to tell yourself a story, tell yourself a good story. You know, sometimes we want to do something and we are afraid to do it. We're afraid to do it. I had one of those happen to me recently. I prepared to work on this project, and just as I was about to start executing on that project, I just smacked into a wall. And it was fear. Interestingly, there was nothing in that project that I had not done before. I had done that several times, but I was fearful. And I was confronted with that, and I was paralyzed by it, and I could not seem to get past it. 1 week passed before I was able to get over that obstacle and press forward. How do you see yourself? If you are given an opportunity or you want to undertake something, and this is going to take some doing, as a leader, you need to, say for example, you are given the responsibility for a new team, or you are given the responsibility for a few teams under you, and you're sizing this up. How do you see yourself as a leader? One of the ways that we sometimes see ourselves is not succeeding. One of the reasons that we sometimes don't apply for a job that's in a higher paid bracket is because we think we'll fail. We won't pass the interview. Or if we get the job, we won't do so well. Or maybe it's that you're working on a project and you don't think that you can deliver this project. Remember what Henry Ford said? If you think you can, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So oftentimes we tell ourselves a story. It's a story of failure. It's fear that grips us. What story are you telling yourself? Let me encourage you. If you are going to tell yourself a story, tell yourself a good one. Don't tell yourself a story that, well, if I apply for this job, I'm not going to get it. Don't tell yourself that story. Don't tell yourself the story that if I'm given responsibility to lead this team or these teams, then our productivity is going to drop and we're not going to work. Don't tell yourself that. That is coming from a place of fear. If you have to tell yourself a story, tell yourself a good story. Tell yourself that I'm going to apply for that job. When I get into that interview room, I am going to blow their socks off. I'm going to land that interview. I'm going to hit it for 6. I'm going to get that job. Tell yourself that. And then when you get that job and you are now operating at a higher level, yes, you have more responsibility. You're getting more pay. You have more responsibility. Tell yourself that I am going to be the best person that can do this job. And then execute on that. You know why? Because you can do it. So let me ask you again. How do you see yourself as a leader? What story are you telling yourself? Like my friend, are other people seeing you already operating at a higher level and you are not seeing that as yet? Are you seeing yourself always playing second fiddle to this other leader or being subordinate to this one? Step out of the shadows, my friend. Step out of the shadows. Like Kennedy, be prepared to cast a huge vision. Challenge yourself and the team that you have around you, whatever your role is as a leader. Challenge all of them to go after that. Yeah, you have no idea how that's going to be done. Back in 1962, yeah, they really didn't know how they would land a man on the moon and return. They did not have it. They needed to go through several development stages, learn to do the things that they're doing right now to perfect that, and then develop brand new technologies to do what they wanted to do. They didn't have it in hand. They were literally making it up as they went along because it was brand new territory for them. And they couldn't afford to back off because the Soviets were already ahead of them. So they had to keep running. Kennedy cast a huge vision in front of them. And they ensured that they worked diligently. And in 1969, they delivered on that. They fulfilled that vision. They landed a man on the moon. And when Neil Armstrong stepped out of that spaceship and he put his boots on the surface of the moon for the first time, and the very first human footprint appeared on the moon, he said, that's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. If Kennedy didn't believe that he could do it, he wouldn't have cast that vision. If all of the executives and the engineers and the astronauts themselves, if they did not believe that they could actually go to the moon and come back safely, they wouldn't have done it. But they did. We put several people on the moon, and they all returned home safely because of a vision, because of a belief we can do this. So, how do you see yourself as a leader? If you're going to tell yourself a story, tell yourself a good one. Tell yourself, I can do this. Tell yourself, I've got this. Tell yourself, I am going to be the best me that I possibly can be. How do you see yourself as a leader? As successful, as thriving, as inspiring, as motivating, as achieving, as all of those things. See yourself achieving your potential. For more help on becoming a better leader, check out this video. See you next time.